These kind of projects make companies go bankrupt.
What are we going to spend our time on today?
And feeling the pain of how hard it is.
We didn't have a legal entity. We didn't have a bank account even.
We're our own biggest investor. Nice, doing this.
My name is Johan. I am a CTO and co-founder of the Things Industries.
Hi, my name is Wienke Giezeman. I'm a CEO and co-founder of the Things Industries. At the Things Industries, we make it easy for anybody to move sensor data from the edge into the cloud in a wireless way, where sensors can last on a battery for very long. It's very low in maintenance to do that, to operate these kind of IoT solutions. So for instance, if you're a fast food restaurant and you want to know from all the fridges around the country in all your franchise stores what the temperature is, you put a simple temperature sensor in which lasts 5 years. You put a small IoT gateway in, and then you can process all the data into your ERP system and do anything with it.
Yeah, and we do that by implementing LoRaWAN. That's a standard for connecting things to the internet that don't have an internet connection. These sensors, they implement LoRaWAN, and our platform also implements LoRaWAN. And we have a product, the Things Stack, which we offer as a SaaS version, the Things Stack Cloud. Subscription model, we have the Things Stack Enterprise for on-prem and private cloud. And then we have a sandbox for the community. So we have a large developer community that uses the platform free of charge for R&D, and we have an open source implementation as well.
It's now our 10 years anniversary. It's been quite a journey.
The company is like 25 people, I would say.
Yeah.
But we don't have a finance person, we don't have a legal person, we don't have an HR person. So those are things we do ourselves, and we do that largely together. And then, I do all the technical stuff. So product, service, engineering, operations.
Yeah, so my part is mostly the marketing and the business. It's very traditional CEO, CTO kind of division, but I think the most important thing in a team as a CEO or CTO is make sure that people are not blocked, to make sure that people can execute and are not being kind of like blocked by anything. Or because we don't have investors, like we don't have to spend our time in preparing board meetings or.
No, I actually have time writing code, so that's nice. I enjoy doing that. It also keeps me very close to the product and close to LoRaWAN. And when I talk with the technical committee about LoRaWAN, about things we can improve in the standards, it's really good to have these feedback loops because I'm actually working on the code, implementing LoRaWAN.
And still with a good work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
Not more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
The European style.
Yeah. Wienke and I know each other from a co-working space here in Amsterdam. I think we met each other in 2013. There were only, in my memory, 3 co-working spaces. And so I think we never worked in the same place at the same time together, but I joined when Wienke left to another one, and we always kept in touch. We saw each other on drinks and small other events and meetups. I think it was in 2015 that I sent Wienke messages to catch up over coffee, and we talked about coffee, we talked about life, work-life balance. Wienke's girlfriend was pregnant, was due in September 2015 at the time, and Wienke also told about an IoT meetup that he went to where he learned about LoRa, this new technology for connecting things. And so we're just basically brainstorming, but I think what I remember is that we talked a lot about, work-life balance and what we wanted to do and build a scalable SaaS business without having a concrete idea of what that was going to be or what it was going to become.
We're doing business in IT, kind of we're more per hour, and kind of like we're looking for some kind of platform play to do. It was 10 years ago, right? So basically here in Amsterdam and in Europe, the startup ecosystem was quite limited, but luckily we're this first kind of like gatherings of technology groups, and one of them was the IoT meetup. All kinds of innovative stuff were always presented there. Kind of we're brainstorming about this technology, what it could do, and about this like little devices that can operate on a battery for very long, transmit data over very long distance. One of the things that we come from a cloud software world, where the paradigm of sharing ideas and sharing open source and learning together is very much standard. And LoRa, initiated by the telco world, we first really decided to have like a more cloud approach, a more open approach to using this technology.
But we did have an initial idea to raise a lot of money and to become an operator ourselves, but then more using the technology as an internet technology, more as an operator. And then shortly after we found out that was going to be a lot of money. And then we thought of doing it in a crowdsourced way because that also fit the time really well. So there were some other initiatives. There was a sharing economy was a big thing.
Peer-to-peer economy. So there were these other companies like Peerby where you could share from your neighbors all kinds of goods. 3D hubs where you can share each other's 3D printers. We kind of like crafted this idea.
We had our own jobs or our own contract work on the side, right? So this was just a hobby. This was a side project for us. We didn't have any business model. It gained quite a bit of traction already early on, and I remember we had interviews in newspapers where a question was, how are you going to make money? And we said, we have no business model. So I was working remote. I was doing these remote work trips, but we were working together already. And so there is indeed a meetup, an IoT meetup, where you went to and announced the Things Network, that we were on a mission is to build an open, decentralized, crowdsourced IoT network that's owned and operated by its users.
Yeah, so we had this kind of first group of people that wanted to join us, and Johan and I said that we want to build a business indeed in this, but we also want to have an open source side to it. And we asked who wants to join. We got this group of people together, and we wanted to kind of have a very concrete objective. So the objective was to cover the entire city of Amsterdam in a LoRaWAN network. The people on the IoT meetup wanted to join us. They were starting to help out on the technology. You were focused on the back end, and I was focused on convincing 10 companies to buy a LoRaWAN gateway around 1,500 euros and put them on a strategic place in Amsterdam so we could cover the entire city. And I think that whole process took us around 6 weeks or something.
Yeah. We wanted to have a bit of a go, no go moment before September.
Yeah.
And so in August, we had this launch event that was basically our first conference in hindsight, but our big meetup. And then indeed we announced that we had, I think it was six or seven gateways.
I think it was around 10.
10, yeah.
Yeah, and also kind of some the KPMG and Deloitte, and everybody wanted to kind of be part of it. And we also did quite some PR around it. And one of the stories to tell people here in Amsterdam was the utility of this. We created this idea, and this came out of this IoT meetup. And the idea was that you could have a water leak sensor in your boat in Amsterdam. There's a lot of boats here in Amsterdam. And if it would detect water, you would get a message. So you can kind of take action and kind of basically prevent from your boat from sinking down to the bottom of the canals, which is very costly, of course. This was literally the first sensor we created, 3D printed case indeed. And so this was the community, the IoT community in Amsterdam that did it. We tried to make a lot of noise with this kind of project. We launched it in Amsterdam. We also launched a platform where everybody everywhere around the world was able to copy us. So they could take our code, they could take examples, and we created a platform where they could become an initiator of their local The Things network. Yeah, and that was then August, September.
Yeah. And then we launched it. So we had the model was that could be initiators in cities or areas where they basically replicate what we did for Amsterdam. So they could basically bring a group of companies, universities, startups together and convince them to buy a few gateways and then connect them to our backend, because that was the thing that we then built, or what I built with one or two other people, and they would collectively build a public network together.
Yeah.
That was really the idea. Already in 2015, I think the first community started to pop up around the world.
Yeah. So they could have a claim to fame, so they could become an initiator of a city. And then we had, I think at some month, all IoT meetups basically around the world had a topic on the Things network and talking about this. And one of the things that we learned very early, because we were very early to this LoRa and LoRaWAN technology, actually making something work end to end beyond the promise, that was incredibly hard.
Technology-wise, so we started with a very basic implementation of LoRaWAN, and it was really a public network. So it was that we didn't have any user accounts even, at least not for the backend. So we had it for the community to manage their pages and content, but everyone that connected a gateway to the network, they basically sent all the data also of their own devices to a public database and a public e-broker. And everyone had read-only access to it, and to the database even administrative access. So everything was public, and we also trusted the community, and there was a lot of trust between the community members also to use the platform in the way it was intended.
And from a technology perspective, of course, very immature, but extremely flexible and open. It was pretty hard is setting up a gateway or building a solution. It's still quite hard, but we'll get to that, how we're making that easy. We thought at the time the Kickstarter as a platform was extremely popular. So we teamed up with with a company was called at the time Tweetonig, and we had this initial community. So we had these people from all around the world. They had this demand. They wanted to repeat what we did in Amsterdam. And that community was growing and growing and growing. And there was a lot of ideas, but they were limited in execution. So what we said is, let's build a Kickstarter and sell LoRaWAN and IoT gateways and development boards based on Arduino and sell them all around the world. Now, the best way to do that at the time was doing a Kickstarter. So we did everything, the marketing, the fancy Kickstarter video, but also we start to kind of push initial community and test with our initial community, again, the idea. And it was a constant pattern. Like we tested it with the local IoT community. Now we start testing ideas with the global IoT community. We always had this really intense feedback loop with our users. And even now, after 10 years, that has never changed. So they said, yeah, cool, we want this, what price point? We started to find vendors, we started to make it, a prototype, then we launched. We tested the idea, but for us also, we said, hey, we're not gonna do this only for fun. We want to build a business out of it.
We didn't have a legal entity. We didn't have a bank account even. They wired the money, like was it 300K or something in your personal bank account?
Yeah.
And so after that, we were like, okay, this is serious. We need to, get an entity and a bank account and everything. And indeed, we wanted to do this professionally. So we needed to have a business model.
Yeah. So we tested any overhead before a successful test. We just didn't do, including a bank account.
Yeah.
So because we first had to prove that there actually was money coming in. And what's the use of a bank account if you? So it kind of like that. That's where we were at. And we had this growing community. We launched it, and what we did is we gave this community early access to the Kickstarter campaign, and this resulted in getting 60K of crowdfunded sales in 30 minutes. So we were together in Brussels at the crowdfunding conference week, and the idea was that we would launch the crowdfunding on stage. I remember like when we walked off the stage, of course, checked the thing, and we already saw 60K. It's like, whoa, okay, this is validation. So yeah, better create a bank account.
Yeah.
So that kept growing. We're growing. In the end, we had 300,000 euros in hardware sales, and after that you have the after orders was also around 300K. So we sold for around 600K in hardware. So we always had the validation before the execution, being in very close contact with the users and with the ecosystem, aligning our maturity with the maturity of the ecosystem. And that was really the big start. So then we needed to execute, and you started to work on the first version of the cloud services.
Yeah, so in 2016, we realized that what we made public to the community wasn't functional enough and scalable enough. So we needed to have user accounts, we needed to have a notion of applications and collaborators and different integrations. So we started building that. And throughout 2016, we developed version 2 of our platform, is what we launched in November. And that has been basically the platform that has been used for many years, 5-6 years, both by our community and commercial users.
Yeah. So again, this was this kind of global cloud infrastructure that allowed us to do it. And one of the things that really happened throughout the 10 years is that I think Johan and I align on ideas, commit, and then we execute. And sometimes these cycles are short and sometimes they're a bit longer. But this was really convenient because I could focus on executing on the Kickstarter, and you could focus on that, and there was no other thing to do actually.
But that's also because there were a lot of things that we didn't do. So we didn't raise a lot of money, no VC or private equity. We didn't build an IoT platform with dashboards and visuals. We didn't launch a cryptocurrency, right? So we always had this focus, basically already from 2015, that we build a network layer and we implement LoRaWAN. The focus area was also quite small, and so we could dedicate all our resources and our time and attention to that. And we started doing a few other things in the last 10 years, but the core of that is still the same.
Fast forward, so through 2016, 2017, we started executing on this V2. We also got customers that said, okay, we don't only want your software, you also need to help us out to execute on this. So we got some larger corporate customers doing work for them, also paying the bills because we didn't raise any money, and then delivering on the Kickstarter.
And so we got requests for private networks during this time, during 2017. When we launched the V2 platform on our community network, which was really designed also for a global community network with all the bells and whistles, we got requests from customers indeed to do projects, consulting. We did some presentations, workshops. That was our business model at the time, but also businesses wanted to have a private LoRaWAN network. And so we said, yeah, of course, we will install our version 2 of our stack for you, for your private network. And soon we figured that platform wasn't really intended for
but the first thing we figured out, and again this pattern, is that the market was requesting that.
Yeah.
And we were not chasing kind of like a PowerPoint we promised to a VC 2 years earlier. No, we were kind of like chasing what problems and solving the problems that our customer gave us. And through this kind of corporate contracts, we learned so much. And then the V3 came, right? Like
yes, but first we shipped, I think, in 2017, the hardware.
Yeah.
Do you want to show what it was?
Yeah, so these are these. So they ended up here. So like this is developer kit. And this was the gateway. That was a big relief. So that was really good. That was really kind of like done and dusted.
Yeah.
It was really through fame and shame. Of course, there was like almost a 1.5 year delay, but it worked and it helped people.
In 2017, also in the summer, we decided to do V3, and it was something we decided already quite quickly with the product team of, I think we were with 5 at the time, and we realized that deploying these V2 servers for individual customers was not going to scale. There was a clear customer demand for this, so this is what we were doing. So we started designing the ThinkStack V3 with some of the key requirements, that it would have a bit more of a standard architecture of a LoRaWAN backend with a network server, application server, joint server, but also multi-tenancy, so that we were able to share infrastructure for multiple users, customers in a shared infrastructure. So we started building that, but at the same time, we had all these things still ongoing. We didn't have any subscription revenue at the time, and we didn't have investors. So every day we started basically on the technical side. What are we going to spend our time on today? Are we going to work on some consulting for customers, some projects? Are we going to install some V2 servers? Do we need to fix a few bugs in V2, or do we have some time left today to build V3?
Yeah.
And so this lasted for 2018, and then 2019, early 2019, we made a repository open source. So it was more than 1.5 years of development, but on the side, in hindsight, also didn't really know what the scope was.
Yeah. From the business side, we always joke that it was the Sagrada Familia of IoT.
Yeah, there was not really a concept of a hosted LoRaWAN backend.
No, but the world
right?
is so much different. Like the whole concept of SaaS and PaaS and Stripe and these things were not there.
Yeah.
And it's exactly also the market was not only that we were in the identity crisis, but the whole IoT market was in an identity crisis because investment money was drying up. And so the peak of the IoT hype was around 2018, 17, 18. And there were some initial successes and there were some initial things that we saw, hey, this is going well, because we still had this developer platform, this community network and sandbox environment where we saw a lot of people trying. So people saw the potential, but the execution was very hard. So we thought, let's bring all these people together. So I think we had around 60,000 IoT developers around the world now at the time. Let's bring them all together. So we tested, we sent out a mail. Hey guys, if we're gonna do in 2018, last week of January, we're gonna do an event where we're gonna get together and learn from each other and see how we can make it better. Then we had 600 people that signed up. We had to charge money for this, of course. It's like, it needs to be true validation. 600 people from, I think, 70 different countries. We had 3 days at the time. It was a crazy event.
Huge success.
Yeah, it was a huge success. And also that gave not only us, but also kind of a lot of people in the ecosystem and in the IoT industry, kind of like a bit of a positive vibe, right? Like it was like, oh, right, like I'm not the only one think that is hard. I'm not the only one that think this has massive potential. We have to push through. That's also what we saw in that year. We landed quite some large global corporate customers. And I think that's the first year that we really got these Fortune 500 customers on board. And although they were also heavy on the consultancy, that just gave us so much insights and lessons on what would be the best way to help our customers. Mm-hmm. That continues. The 2019 event became a very corporate event.
Yes.
And 2020, last week of January, and the COVID lockdown here was in the second week of March. So there were literally 5 weeks between our event and the lockdown. We were pretty lucky, but 2020 was a really, really big event, and we gave away a ton of these smaller gateways.
Yeah.
So during COVID, that was actually really convenient because we even had a better development experience. And COVID gave us time to go heads down and invest in the product, right? Yeah. If you divide the 10 years in 2 times 5, 2020 is a really big cutoff point.
There was a cutoff point. It materialized, but it became a product. a service. We started to operate that. We started to migrate the community network and also.
But people now know V3 as the
V3
Cloud.
is basically the ThinkStack Cloud and the ThinkStack Sandbox, open source and enterprise. So that's our current product. And we started in 2020 doing also other things like the device repository, packet broker, and other things that we started adding to our offering and to our service. But the core was kind of done. And I think after that, like you say, I think 5 years after, they were different.
The big chunks in customer demand validation,
product market fit,
market maturity. And I think what is kind of really like a consistent line is that what we always try to do with these short feedback loops with all these customers, and we now have 150,000 users and around 2,000 customers, because we kept these feedback loops short, that we could do things that had impact. And we never, because we never took any money, we didn't have any feedback loops with investors, which completely skew your vision if you just want to make a great product.
Yeah, and this is also because we never really had an idea. We always asked ourselves, what would we do with 1 million or with 10 million? And we did ask ourselves that over
last 10
years.
We had 10 million here, what would we do differently?
What would we do? And we didn't have a good answer for it. We never had an answer, like a compelling answer to say, okay, this is something where we need an investment to invest here and to grow, and this is going to be the return on investment. There was just no idea. There was not a market that you can grow or a business that you can grow by throwing money at it. We focused early on product-led growth, and one thing that we can influence is how developers can get started with LoRaWAN and that they make less mistakes or that they are successful sooner with our help. I think that's most of the impact and the influence that we have.
Good work-life balance, like know that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint, and just kind of like keep listening to your customers. Like even if they're shouting on the phone to you, or maybe sometimes you have to pull it out, but that's the big cliche. And what it now created is basically a scale-up company. We're now doing 4 million a year revenue, profitable, and we're our own biggest investor in the company. We invest around 3 million every year in our product, which directly goes and benefits our customers. That's not going to stop, but that's just going to add to the product leadership position that we have. During 2023-24, main feedback from our customers was that they said, hey, setting up the network is still the bag of parts, and then go build your own IoT low power sensor network.
I think we were always hovering around doing a gateway. So we did the Kickstarter gateway initially. Then we licensed a gateway that already existed, where we embraced the technology. We did a very deep integration into our stack. So that was the Things Indoor gateway. So that was our second gateway. And then in 2023, we decided to do our own gateway, not as a replacement for what customers were doing at the time, but more as an alternative to make it easier to build a network, especially for customers and people new to LoRaWAN. And so that's what we started to build on, implement, and that became the Things Indoor Gateway Pro. So we're super happy with that product. We have really good feedback. First gateway that has a cellular, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi, and that is already integrated in our platform, where you only have to claim it in the cloud. So there's nothing you need to set up. You don't even have to insert a SIM card. So lots of lessons learned. I think that we were finally able to put into a product. Lessons from 8 years.
And also the market that has reached the level of maturity that they say, I just want a device. If I plug it in the power, I have a low power IoT network here and feet around this.
And it shows really where LoRaWAN and cellular are very much complementary, because we see now that 85% of users using the Things Indoor Gateway Pro, they use only the cellular backhaul, so not Ethernet or Wi-Fi.
And we have always listen to customers, and if we can create and help them in a scalable way, we will create a product, and this is where we're heading.
We see that now with this year's conference, where we broaden the scope to not only doing LoRaWAN. And
of course, all the employees even have somebody working for us from the start. Rish, we had some very committed engineers like Wienke from the start as well. So too many to mention. And also in the ecosystem, people that contributed a lot of open source, not so much on the core product, but on the gateway side and that kind of stuff. And that is really what gives a lot of energy and kind of the community and working together. And just too many to mention here, but it's something that I think we're humbled by and acknowledge very much how that this is what was one of the supporting factors. The successful formula of what we did is that we stayed close to developers and to people that are with their feet in the dirt and feeling the pain of how hard it is to not only create an IoT solution, but also maintain and run it. We will always be focusing on that, because then we can solve their pain points and can make their life easier. And whatever tool that is, if it's a fancy AI thing, we didn't find any AI fancy thing to invest in yet, or if it's very simple things in our API or in our user experience. It's been kind of like 10 fun years. It's going to be another 10 really interesting years. We just keep listening to developers and to partners and solve these problems together.